And Kristen is the one that puts together the Threshold newsletter that goes out to our prospective students and does a lot of the application coordination, those kinds of things. And she's an Earlham College graduate and joined us a couple of years ago. And then Jane, if you want to introduce yourself.
Well, I'm an Earlham, and I've been living here since 2004, and I took classes at ESR several years back, and all the writing classes and others. And I was been caring for my husband who had dementia the last 2 years, and he died in October. So I'm just thinking about various options, and also just curious to see how ESR has changed and what the new program will be like. So.
Great, thank you, Jane. And how about you, Patrick? Do you want to tell us a little bit about you?
So I live in Chicago. All of my degrees are actually in music. I was pursuing a career as an opera singer until before the pandemic. And I've sort of gotten much more involved in my Quaker community over the last year, and I'm sort of thinking about a life change and maybe chaplaincy work of some kind, thinking about maybe like prison chaplaincy or something in that vein. And this program looked really cool, and you know, Earlham is Quaker, so I figured I would come check it out.
Great, great. Well, thank you. And just to kind of introduce myself a little bit, I'm Julie, and I've been with ESR for almost 7 years. I was with Earlham College for a total of 14 years before that, and then also worked in the Richmond community and helped with the development of this new program, because identifying the kinds of programs that a lot of our prospective students were looking for, and thinking about the time frame, it being a year or less, is really attractive to many of our prospective students. But then also the fact that it is based on, actually built out of our Master of Divinity program. So it were classes that we already had. It was just kind of condensing those courses into a shorter program with a little different focus, but then also offering it as a foundation for the Master of Divinity program. So the Master of Arts in Peace and Social Transformation, it's about 10 and a half months. Condensed, it's 36 hours in those months. You do 30 hours of coursework and then 6 hours of an internship in the summer, and then it's completed. Where a Master of Divinity program is a 75-hour program. So, you know, you've completed a big chunk of a 3-year program in less than a year. And so you can continue if that's something that you would like to do. With this program, though, it starts as a cohort. You do need to finish it within that time. Once you get into it, if you decide, I know now that I want to work towards the Master of Divinity, then you can kind of slow down the intensity of the program and change over to that program. So we do have some flexibility within it. Well, since Lonnie's not here yet, I think I'll get started by sharing my screen. And, oh good, yes, I can share my screen. Of course, it's sharing my email. I don't want to do that. Let me move it out of the way here. And stop the share. Okay, let me try that again. Sorry about that. I'll get us there. I always think I have it all set up and all ready to go. And I don't. I see, oh, I changed something. Okay, share the screen. I'll try it. Okay. And of course, I'm at the end of it. Okay. The mission statement for the Earlham School of Religion, rooted in the Quaker tradition of contemplation that inspires action, Earlham School of Religion prepares theologically diverse students for a pluralistic world. Our curriculum unites spiritual formation, academic studies, social engagement, and vital creative ministry. And the Master of Arts in Peace and Social Transformation, it focuses on the spiritual formation and also supervised ministry. Those are the kind of the specific areas of that. You'll go through a core of 3 spiritual formation courses within the first semester. You do 2, and then 1 in the spring semester. And then also you do 2 practicums and the internship at the end. So it is based on our mission statement. And this first screen, this is our classroom building right here. And we're waiting, in about a week or 2, our trees are going to bloom out like this again. So we're kind of excited about that. It's just a beautiful time. And then this is our administration building. This is the Barclay Center. And we are on the campus of Earlham College. And our students can share many of the resources of the Earlham College campus. And we also share a campus with Bethany Seminary, which is Church of the Brethren. Our students right now in all of our programs, we have about 62 or more residential and distance students. Of course, this year, most of them are distance because of COVID. And then also ranging from ages 23 to 76 years old. And they come from all different religious backgrounds, come from all across the US, also Kenya, Congo, and Mexico this year. We've had students from other areas and during other years too. And then Bethany Seminary also have students from other countries. I think they have a program, I believe, in Nigeria, and many of the Nigerian students come here to campus too. And then the Earlham College campus itself is very diverse, a lot of high percentage of international students too. We offer the MDiv, the MA in Religion, the MA in Theopoetics and Writing, and the MA in Peace and Social Transformation. The MA in Theopoetics and Writing and the MA in Peace and Social Transformation, those are our 2 newest programs and are really popular at this time. The only program that can be done fully online is the MA in Theopoetics and Writing, between blended courses and online courses. But most of the students do end up coming to campus for the 2-week intensives at one time or another. And that's a 2-year program. And then the MA in Peace and Social Transformation, it is designed to be fully residential. Last year, we did have to make some changes because of COVID. But we're hoping that this year it'll start out fully residential again. And the MA in Peace and Social Transformation and the MDiv program begin with the August intensives, first 2 weeks of August, with the spiritual formation and personal practice course. And then we also have occasional students, auditors, and certificates. We have a brand new certificate this year. It's a spiritual formation certificate. It is a 6-course certificate that is based on the Master of Divinity, with the core courses of spiritual formation, 3 spiritual formation courses, the discernment of gifts and call, and then you can take 2 electives from the other parts of the curriculum. So once that is complete, you have 2 years that you can complete that in. Once that is complete, you can use that as the basis for your Master of Divinity. It's a really good one for people who just aren't sure if they're ready to devote themselves to full-time seminary. The full-time seminary experience, but just want to kind of test the waters a little bit, or people who are in transition, because it does have a lot of discernment included in it. That it is very helpful for people who are just trying to figure out what they want to do next. And as I said, we do share a campus with Bethany Seminary and resources with Earlham College, including a library, a seminary librarian that also works on the Earlham College campus. We have a wellness center. We have health services, counseling services with them, some food services. and some other amenities too on the Earlham College campus. And plus, it's just a gorgeous campus. It's beautiful. So the Master of Arts in Peace and Social Transformation, or the MAPS program as I'll refer to. This year in our first cohort, we had 8 students and all different ages. We have 3 international students in the program. And we had other international students on our campus too, but the 3 new ones were in this program. And then the students' background include all different kinds of work. Someone who had come from Friends Council on National Legislation, Quaker Voluntary Service. We have new graduates, a couple Earlham College graduates, urban studies majors, former teachers, a paralegal, social workers from all different backgrounds. So it was a really, when we form the cohort, because we will have a cohort of about 10, give or take a few, we do try to create a diverse cohort, looking at diversity in all different ways. Its specialized MAPS program provides theological education, practical experience to students who wish to pursue ministries of social change. I said focusing on the spiritual formation and the supervised ministry. And the program shares several courses with the MDiv program. And as I said, spiritual formation is the core of it. There are courses in theology, biblical studies, interfaith dialogue, or contextual theology. And then students have the opportunity to develop their skills through the 3 practicums. They'll have 2 practicums and 1 internship. And it is a 36 credit hour program. Again, this just shows the overview of the courses that you will take. In a few minutes, I can have Lonnie kind of talk about like the areas of concentration, the capstone, and the practicums. The deadline is May 1st for this coming fall. And if you are thinking of applying for next year, application will open in October. And as I say it's a 12-month residential. It's really more like 10 and a half, 11-month residential program. And you do start with the 2-week residential intensive. And it'll be about 10 students. It is a tuition-free program this coming year. You will have to pay for fees. Your semester fees are around $350 per semester. You'll have the 2 semesters. And then, of course, you would have to pay your own housing. We don't include a living stipend either. And then the application includes these pieces. Just for general reference, if you know of other students who are considering applying, we do offer an international student scholarship. As I say, they would already get their tuition paid, but for international students, it also pays their semester fees, provides housing and a ESR residence, and a very small living stipend as well. Also, we do offer a diversity scholarship that covers much of that as well. And I prepared this last fall, so just saying, if, for instance, if you're thinking of starting not this fall, but next fall, you can always start as an occasional student this coming fall, take a few classes, and that will help lighten your load. For instance, like one of the Intro to Bible courses, something like that, you could take that, get a 50% discount on that class, but that will help lighten your load so it's not quite as full when you do start as in the cohort. Okay. That's what I got there. Lonnie, I'm wondering if you want to introduce yourself and also if there's something that you would like to add. Oop, you're on mute.
There we go. All right. Hi, Patrick. Hi, Jane. And want to hear if Patrick has any questions on that thorough presentation. There's a lot in there, Julie.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm Lonnie Valentine, and I'm a graduate of the School of Religion. And I did my Master of Arts in Religion, which is the thesis-oriented program that still goes on, and here at the school. And one of the things that I found attractive at the school, coming from California, wondering what it was going to be like going to school somewhere in an Indiana cornfield, and so on. But the place itself has a lot of liveliness, a lot of diversity. You heard from Julie some of the international students who were here when I was a student, that added a lot. And the students that are from the United States come from a wide variety of perspectives, which enriches it. Maybe about 40% of our students are Quakers, but they're different kinds of Quakers. And others that show up from other denominations certainly enrich what we're doing. So the Master of Arts in Peace and Social Transformation is one of those sort of options that we have in trying, as Julie said, to set up a diversity of things that will meet the diversity of interests that students have in pursuing this education. Quakers have this idea that everybody is called into ministry of some sort. So our areas of emphasis within the MDiv, plus the new programs and MA programs and theopoetics and writing and peace and social transformation are try to recognize that diversity of what people are doing. So you not only have a diversity of theological background and cultural backgrounds, but different views on what people are going to do for their ministry. So that being said, the Master of Arts in Peace and Social Transformation, Julie said, is trying to offer an option that may not work for everybody, but can work very well for some. So as she said, it's a cohort group, meaning the hope is that people are going through together, going to finish in that year in the summer. So you have a sort of a support group and an accountability group just with the students that are in that particular cohort. And again, the idea was our first year, we would start off with a good residential cohort. Everybody's here on campus, and away we go. Well, COVID had something else to say to that. So we had to make do as we can. The connection from the Master of Arts in Peace and Social Transformation to the MDiv program is clear in those initial courses that Julie had up. The spiritual formation course and spiritual formation and personal practice in August. You will have MDiv students in that. All the MDiv students will be in that course. The same for the FC 102. That's one I teach, and then FC 103. So you have an expanded cohort in a way of other people that are with you. So that first course is trying to open up the varieties of spiritual practices that people may not be aware of, in addition to whatever their own practices are. So it's diverse in that way. We have a variety of perspectives in the school, as I said, and so the spiritual practices are different, but it's meant to be enriching and sort of finding out, well, what kind of spiritual practices really ground you, and what might you be able to expand that for yourself in that class. Then the focus moves a bit and is trying to think, okay, given your spirituality in the next class, this fall semester class, spiritual formation and public mission, then it's trying to sort of say, okay, you've worked some on that spiritual practices. Now, how do you see that connecting to any sort of work that you're called to, vocational work? Vocation was a sense of calling, often in a religious context. Well, how do those two connect? So you do some work on that and thinking about that, readings about people working in various ways of connecting their spirituality to their work for social change. That's where the practicum starts. And in the way it's shaped up this year, what students do, they find an organization. It can be local, it can be in your hometown, but that is focusing on an issue of concern to you. So students drive that. What issue and what organization find that. And most of the time in this first semester, it's sort of spending time at the organization, but with a question in mind. Okay, what is the problem this group is addressing? And then how do they understand the cause or causes of this problem? And what do we know about the best practices, if you will, of other organizations working on the same issue that have found ways of making a difference? So they ask those kinds of questions, and along with that, they go research those questions in the library, looking at what people understand about the causes. So, homelessness, okay? Well, what are the drivers from that? And you can focus on local, you could focus on a state level, you could focus on nationally in that way of trying to get a handle on, well, why is this happening? What's going on here? Thinking about how the organization is understanding that problem, what research might show to be different perspectives or additional causes that may need to be taken care of, addressed. Then in FC 103, community diversity and conflict, then it's trying to then begin to think in the practicum about, well, what project might I do with this organization that might be helpful? It could be something that they're already working on, but tying into a project or something out of the research potentially that you found that you could work on with others in the organization. So in the fall through the spring, you have the practicum associated with those classes. Then in the meantime, you have, as Julie had up there, you have a requirement and take a course in theology, a couple Bible courses, and so on to sort of get grounded or see how Quaker Christianity perspective on these kinds of issues. And then 3 courses that are your options. People will use those in a variety of ways, but given the diversity of courses we have, you could sort of have an area of focus in there if it works for you and your scheduling. Then the summer internship, which we'll be living into this summer. The hope is that you found an organization that you could work with and so on during following the May intensive through the end of July to try to get more or less 15 to 20 hours of work a week, and then write a sort of a summary paper of kind of what you have learned, not only in that summer internship as it's moving through the summer, but from all the courses that you've taken and the work you've done in the practicum. It's an intensive program. For people that have lots of other obligations, probably won't work because you have to take the August intensive, full load in the fall semester, January intensive, full load in the spring, May intensive, and then in the summer internship. The hope is that the intensity of that sort of raises the effort, raises the results because of the effort put in there. It's sort of like thinking if I'm training for something, I can kind of jog along and do okay, and I'll get some benefit. But if I start doing, interval training and trying to work hard, I'm going to increase my capacity in doing that. So let me stop there. That's a long ramble, and Julie's presentation tried to give you the overview of our very complex operation here to see what questions you might have for Julie or for myself. But thanks for showing up, Patrick.
Thank you so much for that. I guess I sort of have 2 questions, and one is more of like an admissions-y question, and the other one is more about the program itself. The first one is, as I said earlier before you got here, my background is all in music. That's what my degrees were in initially, and I'm sort of at this life change point. But I'm wondering in terms of like prerequisites and things I maybe should have taken in undergrad that wouldn't have been part of my degree program, like theology courses or Bible courses, like if there's anything there that y'all look for when you're looking at applicants. And then my second question is more about the practicums and about Richmond and sort of what the culture of like justice work and social or work organizations are within Richmond, and are there like a lot of opportunities locally to do that practicum work, or will I need to be like looking more in the community where I'm coming from now to find organizations?
Okay. Julie, you want to start off on the first one?
Yeah, I can start off on it, but you might want to jump in too, because you've been involved with the admissions committee for quite a while. From my perspective, I'm more looking for those who are seeking to make a change in their careers, and have been connected to, like with you, with the Quaker world, and have a bit of an understanding of the Quaker process and about the Quaker faith, Quaker testimonies. That to me is a bit more important than what your undergrad degree is. I think from my perspective, seminary is the perfect place for people who are wanting to make a change, make a transition, who are questioning, what should I do next? How does what I have been doing relate to world issues, peace and justice issues, ministry? I think for me, from my perspective, that's what I'm looking for more. I don't know, how do you feel about that, Lonnie? What would you say as a professor in the program? What do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of diversity, again, as I said before, but also diversity, as Julie is saying, in terms of people's academic background. We have international students, and that's often difficult for them and for us, because, you know, if they have good college training, oftentimes it's just done in a very different way than we do it. Here it's like, we want you to think, we want you to develop your arguments. You can believe what you want, but give us evidence for it. And why do you think that way? And so on. Oftentimes we find, for at least some of our international students, the idea is, I've now learned this from an authority, and my job is to repeat this back. Well, we're not there. We're not doing that. But that's all to say then that we do our best to work with those students. We also have students, special students, in the sense that, you know, American students that haven't finished an undergraduate degree. So we've admitted students there. And then, as Julie indicated, from a diversity of majors, very few people have an undergraduate degree in theology or religious studies in that way. So that's, you know, that's it does help. We find if people at least have some sort of background, it may not be so much reading and so on, but having lived in a tradition can be helpful. Otherwise, it's you know, hard to sort of get going. Suddenly you're looking at the Bible when you never looked at it before. You're being asked to sort of, you know, learn how to think theologically and historically, and if you haven't done that before. But the school works with people. I think for me, it's like, is the person open to being in a situation where you're going to be asked to consider different beliefs? You're going to be asked to sort of give reasons for why you believe, and not just say, well, you know, this is what I've been taught, that's it, right? In that way. On the practical level, you know, someone that has a background as you have had, we've had engineers come in, sometimes they haven't written like a lot of research papers or that kind of thing. So that sometimes can be an issue, whether it's international students or domestic students. But again, the teachers here try to work with students on those kinds of things as well, because we recognize, you know, again, back to Quakers, everybody is called to some form of ministry, that is trying to do something to heal the world, do it in a variety of ways, and do it not necessarily with, you know, highfalutin academic degrees. You know, sometimes those people hurt the world more than they help.
Yeah. And I have three things also to add to this. For instance, several of our new students that would be in your cohort or that are in our MDiv program for this fall, like one is a psychiatrist, two are lawyers, two of them have psychology backgrounds, or their undergrad was psychology, one with creative writing. We have a lot of artists, art in many different forms. That seems to be a common theme. And then also those many who don't consider ministry in the traditional ways, even whether pastoral care or pastoral ministry, that they think of ministry in very creative ways. So we have a lot of students in the Master of Arts in the Master of Arts in Theopoetics and Writing program that have more of an art or fine arts or performance arts background. But we have people who their major career has been waitressing, and then we have others who are more, again, traditional and have done ministry in a lot of different ways. So just a lot of different backgrounds coming from a lot of different places. And I think that's what creates a really dynamic classroom experience and learning from each other and hearing about the different backgrounds. Not everybody's come from the same place and have the very same understanding. And then I can comment on the second part of your second question about the Richmond community. And there are lots of opportunities for supervised ministry in the Richmond community. Richmond, I don't know if you know much about Richmond, but Richmond has one of the lowest cost of living in the nation. And that's a good thing if you're moving here and you're trying to either buy a house or find a place to rent, and the cost of living is really low. But then there are also lots of opportunities for ministry. There are, poverty issues, drug issues. We have migrants in the area. We have a wonderful organization called Amigos that is services for our Hispanic population. We have an elderly population. Just a few blocks from where we are, there's interfaith apartments. It's kind of the lower income housing that often our students will do ministry work there. So lots of organizations that focus on children's needs. And Genesis, which is a woman's shelter, so things like that. So there are lots of opportunities.
Yeah, I wanted to say one thing before I begin with your background in music. With our relationship with Earl College, who has, pretty significant music department, then you can have connections there. I mean, formally, we have students at the School of Religion can take classes at the upper division classes at the college with permission of the instructors, and vice versa. College students can take classes at ESR, and there's no problem that way. But just thinking of resources here right on campus that you may find helpful. What I wanted to say, the flip side of cost of living is low, you have a high poverty rate. So you have here all the problems you have in a big city, and you have organizations, small ones, of course, that are trying to address those. So there are plenty of opportunities that way. It's sort of a post-industrial town struggling to sort of see, what's next. You have in terms of the arts, kind of some amazing stuff. There's a little community orchestra, then there's a Richmond Symphony Orchestra that, brings in ringers from other places for the orchestra. So there's a lot of activity. There's a Shakespeare festival here, the Civic Theater that's very active. Used to have an opera company, a couple then, and headed that up for years. So because of Earlham, because of Reed Hospital, which is a big regional hospital, and so on, and then there's a branch of the Indiana University system, Indiana University East, and so on. So there are those enriching aspects of that, in addition to real issues with poverty in this town. But in terms of the work for like the internships during the year, people could do work in Indianapolis. That's an hour or so away. That has lots of opportunity. That's a big city, or Dayton or Cincinnati. So those regional places could be involved if there's not something one could find, more locally. That's certainly an option. And then for the summer internship, that's wherever you want to work. People are away from campus at that point.
And in addition to the community arts, also on the Earlham College campus too, they have several choruses, they have gospel revelations, they have also theater, and our students can get involved with those things. And then the Richmond community also has other things. We have a lot of live music. We have a park that's in the downtown that they'll have food trucks and music and different things going on, and then just individuals and groups also perform around town. We try to play up on our jazz history, a lot of jazz recordings here, and so there is a bit of focus on music here. And then I'm not sure if you bike, but we're trying to become more bikeable. There are bike paths, there are bike trails, also lots of walking trails, lots of really nice outdoor spaces. And Cope Environmental Center, an arboretum. We have a trail that starts here and goes 67 miles north. That is a nice paved trail. So and we have a farmer's market. Just little things like that. A lot of homegrown kinds of stores and events and festivals and things like that.
So what particularly in music have you been up to? What have you been doing in music?
So I did an undergrad and 2 postgrads in opera. And then I've sort of been pursuing that for 6 years or so, just about, professionally pursuing it. But things sort of just stopped when the pandemic happened. I think we all made a lot of adjustments this year. But I was saying earlier, I used the time to get more involved in my local Quaker community. And I've been very frustrated with a lot of things about participating in the classical arts world. It's very moneyed, and there's a lot of privilege and a lot of discrimination. And I've also spent, it's good to hear about Richmond a little bit more, because I've spent the last 10 years in big cities. I was in Boston and now I'm in Chicago. And I think if I would pursue more seminary related work, I would like to do it somewhere where I can really focus on sort of spiritual nurture and listening to spirit. And that's one of the big draws for me about Earlham is it would be a little bit of a quieter place to sort of figure out where spirit is calling me at the moment.
Okay. Well, my spouse will be interested to hear of that interest. She's classically trained in piano and flute, so that's what she does. So she plays like Bethany now for their worship. They often hire her to do the piano work on that. So she's always anxious to find an artist and understands a bit about that world. She ended up working in art conservancy, working to restore Japanese screens. The 4 and 6 panel screen with all the gold leaf on it, and then outdoor monuments. So that was an interesting combination. But you'd be happy to talk with another artiste.
Yeah. And then we have a current student who does classical guitar, and then another one who does Broadway kinds of performances. And so it's really it's so much fun to share that and learn.
Yeah, I'm always happy to share and talk about it. It's funny being, a liberal Quaker, and their music is not a big part of the things that we do in general. It's nice to hear that there's some music at Earlham too.
Yeah. Well, I think that move against the arts by the early Quakers, I can understand the impulse, but I think it was mistaken. Yes, these outward forms can be distracting, but they can also do something about the inward form. Yeah.
Thank God for continuing revelation, right?
That's right.
Especially as we develop the Theopoetics program too. I just think a lot more of the visual arts and performing arts will start connecting more to the Theopoetics.
Yeah, it sounds like, I mean, both of the programs are super interesting and sort of very niche. Y'all are sort of the only people doing this kind of work right now. So it's very attractive, sort of with where I'm at the moment. I probably wouldn't be applying for this cohort. It would probably be the next time around. Mostly I just have some like life things to sort through. But it was really great to be here today and to learn more about the program and meet y'all.
Yeah. Well,
Great to have you.
Yeah, as Julie said, we're nearing the end of this year, but if you're looking down the road, I mean, you can always come and visit and sit in on classes and get a feel for it. As Julie said, it's possible just to have a short app and an occasional student and take a class, and sort of see how it feels. So
yeah.
And also we'll have a writing colloquium this fall, and it's likely going to be mostly virtual, probably a week-long event, and also incorporating some of the visit week kinds of stuff into it. So that would be prospective students, current students, other people all involved in the whole week. So you can get to know some of the other students, some of the other perspectives, and then also get involved with the writing colloquium part of it too. Yeah, first week in November, most likely.
Yeah.
We'll keep a lookout on the threshold for that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
And also, I'm going to look at the occasional student situation too, because I would maybe be interested in taking one of those Bible courses, just because that would be interesting to me regardless of if I end up applying for this program. So,
yeah.
And because we share a campus with Bethany Seminary, our students take courses from Bethany Seminary. Bethany Seminary students take courses from us. So some of those Bible courses will actually be through Bethany Seminary.
And I guess this is another like more specific question about the School of Religion in general. Given that Quakers sort of go on the spectrum of Christocentric understanding of spirit, like where does Earlham sort of fall on that?
Lonnie will probably want to answer this because he's experienced all different forms of his classes.
Well, I mean, I think, as I said before, sort of with the idea that the students' responsibility is trying to work out their own theological views and so on. And we're not here to sort of teach right doctrine in that way, but engage in that sort of more fluid conversation. Well, that all, tends toward more classical liberal arts and so on, which just by itself rubs people the wrong way that are on the more conservative end of it, including within Quakerism. The school has tried very hard to stay in touch with more evangelical friends. Phil Baisley, who heads up pastoral studies here, was and is an evangelical, but moved in that spectrum of evangelicalism, to sort of mean more a Jim Wallace kind of evangelical, right? And so we had some Quakers that were pastoral meetings, evangelical, but in the Quaker flavor. They were still pacifists. They thought equality of women was a good idea, and these kind of things. So I think in more recent years, it tends to be more progressive, liberal, Quaker kind of ethos. But again, about 60% of the students are other than Quaker. But I think that's fair to say of the perspective, and grounded in the whole idea that some people think is wrong, that you have to think and work out your own theology, and we're not expecting everybody to come out thinking the same way. That would be very boring, if nothing else. So very damaging. But yeah.
Thank you for that. It's helpful.
Yeah. Well, when I came here as a student, a prospective student long ago, I was wondering about that. I said, I grew up in Southern California, right? This sort of stuff. What am I doing in Indiana? and I wanted to sit in on a class. I was very, very nervous about what it was going to be like, but no, it was great. And I looked up, and the professors were educated at, U of Chicago and Harvard, and, well, we can excuse Harvard, but anyway, other good places, a reputable place.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's like a burning question that I have right now, but I think this was super helpful, and y'all were so friendly. So that's also very helpful in sort of seeing what the environment might be like, especially given that it's such a small program. So I really appreciate this time.
Yeah, and feel free to reach out, to Julie and I. But of course, if you have questions like in the Master of Arts in Theatrics and Writing, Ben, who's on the ESR side with that program, is happy to talk on that or other kinds of questions you might have. So.
Sure.
And then also too about scholarships too for the other programs, because I know the Master of Arts in Peace and Social Transformation right now, it is a tuition-free program, but the other programs, as a residential student, you could get some very good scholarships that could pay for most or all of the tuition. So that would be helpful too.
It's also very good to know, because I'll be honest, that's part of what this year of figuring things out is I did a lot of school already in something else, and spent a lot of money doing that, and so I'm just sort of working right now to figure out how to set myself up to maybe make a change in a way that doesn't put me back too much further in that regard.
Right. Yep.
Sure.
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, great to meet you. Glad you could join us, Patrick.
Yeah, this is wonderful.